Hey guys, Amanda here, Masters in Marriage and Family Therapy. How's your communicating style? Usually when I do premarital counseling or even marital counseling and I ask my clients what are their goals for therapy, usually most, if not all of them will say, Amanda, help us with our communication. It's like I say something and she doesn't get it and he says something and I have not a clue what he's talking about. Not only that, but after our conversations and our conflicts, we leave it feeling more distant than ever. We're angry, we're upset. What can we do? Oh, and this is so true. You know why? Because Dr. John Gottman, he studied and researched 4 communicating styles that he says he can predict the end of a relationship and divorce itself if these styles are present. He called them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about now. Because if it is present in your relationship, you need to get rid of them now. And I'm going to give you antidotes so that you know exactly how you're going to get rid of them. So grab your papers, grab your pens, snuggle up with your partner because you're going to want to watch this together. And well, if your partner's not home, take really great notes so that you can share what you learned. Okay, here we go. The first horseman of the apocalypse is criticism. This is the most common. And criticizing your partner is very different than voicing a complaint. Here's the difference. A complaint is about a specific issue, whereas a criticism is an attack on your partner's character. Let me give you an example. Renee and I, we have a rule in this household. The Leonardi household has this rule. The last one out of the bed makes the bed. The reason is because we both do not like to make the bed. And so every morning we're usually like wrestling with each other to see who gets out first. And there are some mornings where I get out last and I have to make the bed and I forget, or really I just don't do it, and vice versa. There are some mornings that Renee gets out last and he forgets it and he doesn't get to it. Now, Renee forgot to make it this morning. And it made me a little upset. It made me a little angry that he forgot to make the bed. And so I had 2 options. I could either criticize him or I could voice a complaint. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you, I want you to hear it, what a criticism looks like. I could say something like this. Renee, you always forget to make the bed. You never keep your end of the bargain. Why are you so selfish? Did you see those 3-part things? You always, you never, and then there was a why question, which really isn't a question at all. It's what adults do sometimes to children. It's an insult. They're like rhetorical questions. Why are you so lazy? I'm not really fishing for an answer. I'm just making a statement. You're so lazy. Sometimes we treat our spouses, our wives, our husbands, like we treat children. And it's very offensive and insulting. So the problem with criticism is that it takes something specific like making the bed and I just made it global. It takes something situational like making the bed and I just made it a personal attack on his character. And I think the biggest issue with this horseman is that it paves the way for even deadlier horsemen. So I'm pretty sure at some point your marriage had criticism. And so it's not that your marriage is doomed, oh, now we're going to get a divorce. The problem is the more criticism takes place, the more it becomes a habit. It paves that way, and sooner or later, all the other 3 are going to creep in, and then you're in trouble. So Amanda, what do? Here's the antidote. Write it down. Complain without blame. Express a positive need using I statements. And before you do, think about, what do I feel and what do I need without making generalizations? So I can say it to Renee like this. Hey babe, right? It started like that. I really feel frustrated when you don't make the bed in the morning. And I really need for you to make it. It just makes my day better when my day starts off organized. I can come into the room when I have a client, via Skype or FaceTime or whatever. And when I look at that bed and it's unmade, it's like it just scatters my thoughts. Do you mind doing the bed? Could you please not forget to do it? I promise you, if you approach it in this way, your partner is more likely to say yes, to agree, because they're not feeling an attack on their character. You see, generalizations elicits defensiveness. Hear me well. Generalizations elicits defensiveness. Do you remember growing up and maybe your mom and dad said, oh, you never make the bed. Oh, you're so lazy. You never get good grades. How angry did you get because you thought, I don't always do that. And we do one mistake and now I'm all bad because of this one thing that I did. Renee is not a selfish person if he forgot to make the bed once. We cannot criticize. We cannot attack our partner's character. And this is precisely the next horseman of the apocalypse. Defensiveness. It comes as a response to criticism. So what is defensiveness? It's when we feel unjustly accused and we start to fish for excuses and play the innocent victim. The problem with defensiveness is that these excuses tell your partner, I don't take you very seriously. They start thinking, man, I'm here, sharing a complaint and they're not even listening to me. They're getting all defensive. They're not even hearing me out. And the other problem is that you're not taking responsibility when you start to become defensiveness. You're not taking responsibility for your mistakes. Now, I get that defensiveness can come up when you feel as though your character is being attacked. But if defensiveness is something that you habitually resort to, you might start using it as a counterattack against complaint. And a complaint is not a criticism. Here's another example. Renee usually does the grocery shopping around here. Well, after River and Reed and our twin boys, it's so hard to get out of the house with those two, and so I usually send him a list of groceries that I need for the week, or maybe I want to do something special for that day, and I send him a list, and after work, he quickly stops by Trader Joe's. It's a place that we like to go, and he picks things up for us. And sometimes Renee forgets what I asked, and when he comes home, I'm only human here, so sometimes I kind of give him a criticism. Oh, you always forget what I asked. You never do it. Why did you forget such and such? Now, in this moment, if Renee became defensive, it would almost be perfectly understandable. Why? Because he's stressed out. He's tired from work. He's feeling attacked. He just went in, to the groceries, and now I'm like, oh, why did you do this? Why did you do that? But I think Renee does this beautifully, and I admire him so much for this. When there are times that I give Renee a criticism, and I try not to, but I'm only human, but when I do, he can respond in two ways. He can be defensive back and say, are you kidding me? How many times did you go to the grocery store and we came home and then you forget what you were going to buy? You go to the grocery stores and you don't even have a list, right? He could have turned around and counterattacked that way. But in these moments, Renee says, oh man, you know what? You're right. I completely forgot. I'm so sorry. Is there something else that we can make tonight? And then tomorrow, I promise you, babe, I'm going to go back to the store and I'm going to get it. And when he does that, you know what it makes me say? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have criticized you like that. It's not that you always forget. I'm just, I'm tired all day with the boys. Don't worry about it. We'll do this meal tomorrow. And that's how it works. If I give a criticism and you become defensive, it's just going to be an ongoing cycle. So there needs to be one, if not both of you, who are willing to say, you know what? I'm going to take responsibility for my part in it. And that's exactly the antidote for defensiveness. Take responsibility. It's not going to be for the whole, communication, but take responsibility for your part in it. All right, here's the next one. The third horseman of the apocalypse, and hear me well. Contempt. This is the worst, and this is the number one predictor of divorce. If you have this currently in your relationship, you need to get help now, today. You cannot wait for tomorrow. This is now an emergency. It's a 911. It's a crisis. What is contempt? You're honestly just being mean with each other. You're being disrespectful. You're mocking with sarcasm. You know what sarcasm is? Mean-spirited disguised as humor. You think things are funny, but they're not really funny because the receiving end, is getting quite hurt because of it. Sarcasm, I can enjoy a good amount of sarcasm, but it's really a fine line between something that is no longer funny and someone is getting hurt. What is contempt? It's the name calling. It's the mimicking. Oh, really? That's what you mean? Yeah, it's imitating someone, mimicking, eye rolling, sneering. All of these things are contempt, and this cannot exist in your relationship. Why? Because it conveys disgust and superiority, says Dr. John Gottman. He says it becomes a position, an aura of, I am better than you and you are lesser than me. Contempt is fueled by long, simmering negative thoughts that you have about your partner, and it arises in this form of attack on someone's sense of self. Contempt cannot exist in our relationship. Why? Because it destroys your physiological, emotional, and your physical health. Contempt can be seen when a client of mine, when an American is married to a Brazilian, there is one issue that seems to always come up. I mean, this might sound like a generalization, but listen, Brazilians have a really hard time being on time. And I moved to America when I was 3 years old. So in this aspect of my life, I think I am very American. I appreciate being on time. And sometimes it can almost be disrespectful when someone is late. But Brazilians really struggle with this. You had a client, and a Brazilian woman married to an American guy, and the wife could not be on time just in any way, shape, or form. And the husband would say things like, are you kidding me? Like, how old are you? You're like 5 years old. I learned how to be on time when I was 5. Like, get it together. You're disrespectful, and just eye rolling. And I'm just, sorry, honey, I didn't find the outfit to wear. Mimicking her and eye rolling and being sarcastic and treating her with contempt. Do you treat your spouse with contempt? Are you being sarcastic? Are you rolling your eyes? Are you sneering? Are you being disrespectful? Are you being straight up mean? And now that you realize what you're doing, and now that you realize that this is the number one predictor of divorce, what can you do about it? Well, there's a short-term plan, and then there's a long-term plan. Or a short-term antidote, and then a long-term antidote. The short-term is this. Describe your feelings and your need and avoid you statements. Remember, kind of like the criticism, use I statements. Say, hey, it's really important to me to be on time. Do you think you could help me with that? And then help your partner get to a place where being on time is something that maybe it's not her habit. Maybe it's hard for her. But don't, offer it with contempt. Be helpful in this situation. And then the next one is the long-term antidote. Build a culture of fondness and admiration. And at this point in your relationship, if contempt is present, that's going to be really hard, because it's not some admiration and fondness is not built over time. But take small, intentional steps to show and demonstrate acts of kindness to your spouse. One question that I always ask couples when they're in therapy, and whether, premaritals are fun, right? Because everyone is still rainbows and bunnies and everyone's loving each other. But sometimes people are just like in the middle of a war zone. And I say this question, I said, can you guys tell me how you met? And oh man, the atmosphere changes, and the wife goes on, and the husband's, oh, remember that one time and I saw you and I knew you were the one. All of a sudden, there's fondness. All of a sudden, there's admiration. And then I say something like, hey, tell me a time in your relationship that it was hard, but that you guys overcame. So stop, take a look at the past, all of your victories, all of your failures, everything that you have overcome together. Remind yourself why it is that you fell in love with this woman, and why it is that you fell in love with this man. And little by little, with intentional, purposeful steps, you are going to once again reconnect in an aura, in an area, in an environment of fondness and admiration. Because positive thoughts about your partner will lead to positive feelings about your partner, and will ultimately lead to positive actions towards your partner. Okay, Amanda, what's the last one? The last one, if defensiveness is a counterattack to criticism, then stonewalling, our fourth horseman of the apocalypse, is a counterattack to contempt. when someone's treating you, rolling their eyes, sarcastic, and the way that I just described, you are most likely going to withdraw, shut down. You are so overwhelmed. You're going to build this wall and you are going to become unresponsive because no one wants to engage with someone that is demonstrating contempt. 85%, check this out, women, 85% of men stonewall. Isn't that amazing? And usually when you ask these men, why are you stonewalling? They're saying, listen, I'm trying my best to not make this situation worse. But in them trying to not make the situation worse, the wife sees him just being silent and shut down, and she builds frustration, builds anger, and she sees like, okay, this guy is completely ignoring me. So that's not the way to deal with contempt. There's a better way. And I'm going to share with you it in a second. I thought this was absolutely amazing. Dr. John Gottman says that every time your heartbeat goes above 100 beats per minute, stonewalling is about to take place. Isn't that amazing? You start sensing that you're irritated, you're stressed out, you're overwhelmed. Your body is literally giving you a signal like, stop this conversation. And you can stop a conversation without stonewalling your partner. And so here it is. Sign, stop, soothe. What do I mean by that? First, figure out a sign with your spouse. A sign that says, maybe it's like this, please stop. Maybe it's prayer. Maybe you get on your knees. Find something funny. Find something creative that is you telling your spouse, when I do this sign, it means that my heart is well over 100 beats per minute. I'm about to stonewall you. I don't want to stonewall you, so we need to stop this conversation. But two things need to happen. You need to create a sign together, and then you need to honor when that sign takes place. You can't just be like, oh, well, ignore the sign and keep on just railing your spouse with question and contempt and defensiveness and criticism. You need to honor the deal that you made. So figure it out right now. Figure it out in a moment, in a time that you guys are well in your relationship. Don't wait last minute while this conversation is taking place, while a heated conversation is taking place, to say, hey, here's my sign. Please, for the love of God, stop talking, woman, or stop talking, man, right? So figure out what is your sign. And when that sign takes place, you need to stop. You need to stop having this conversation. And then you need to take 20 minutes. You need to take 20 minutes. Why 20 minutes? Because this is the amount of time it takes for you to just cool off. This is the amount of time your body needs. In this 20 minutes, you're going to soothe yourself. What are you going to do? Something that you enjoy. Do not think about your partner. Do not think about the situation. Do not think about the argument or this disagreement. You are going to just soothe yourself. Grab a book, go on a bike ride, do something for 20 minutes where you can just, come back to Zen. Come back to a place where now you are ready to engage in a fruitful conversation. Not one that's going to have criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling. So is that clear? Is everyone together? Those are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I'm going to say it again. Criticism. And then a response to that is defensiveness. Contempt, the absolute worst one. This will lead to divorce. So if this is happening in your relationship, remember your short-term plan and your long-term plan. And finally, the counterattack to contempt is stonewalling. Well, because no one wants to be treated with contempt. Write this down, have it well, and my prayer is that it's going to make a difference in your relationship, because when we're aware of something, then we can start fighting against it. If this was useful to you guys, I ask that you would like, share, and then subscribe to the channel. Click that button so that you know, the little bell, so that you know when new videos come in. We're doing our best here to give you guys great content once or twice a week. And if you know a relationship that's not going well, if you know communications are stopped, maybe you're older, you're younger, maybe you're just about to get married, apply these tools now. Fight off these 4 horsemen now, because it's easier to maintain a relationship than start to figure out all of these things well into it. So let's make a difference now. Today is not too late. I'll see you guys next time.